In the old days of the Republican Party, there wasn't just one voice willing to make the super rich sacrifice just a little bit more to protect the middle class. It was, in fact, a party platform. Here's the big picture on this whole thing. Back after World War II, we came out of World War II with an absolutely massive debt. Here it is right here. This is debt in the United States, literally from the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, the Civil War, World War I, World War II. And the question is, how did Dwight Eisenhower, the Republican president, pay off all of this debt and create this incredible trough all the way down to the point where Reagan came into office and with his tax cuts on the rich exploded the debt, then Clinton dropped the debt, and then Bush came in with his tax cuts on the rich and exploded the debt again. So anyhow, how did Eisenhower do this after World War II? Very simple. He borrowed money and spent it. He created a national highway system, the equivalent of today building a high-speed rail system across the country, that created a boom for communities all across the nation and for inland manufacturers who wanted to get products to port for export, which of course stimulated our economy and paid down, where it used to be there, paid down the debt. He created, Eisenhower, in 1953, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and made it a cabinet position to reduce the number of hungry and poorly educated Americans and stimulate the economy to pay down our debt. He pushed for and built the St. Lawrence Seaway, linking the Great Lakes with the Atlantic Ocean to build trade with Europe, thus creating manufacturing jobs for export, thus stimulating the economy and paying down our debt. He reached out to Alaska and Hawaii and brought them into the U.S. He openly supported a top income tax rate of 91% on the very, very rich, which helped pay down our debt. He openly supported corporations paying over 30% of all tax collections at the federal level, which helped pay down our debt. Today, it's closer to 15%. He pushed for federal aid for R&D. So in 1956, IBM built the first hard drive, and in 1960, the laser was invented with largely federal funds. He openly supported unionized workers having the right to organize, which kept pay up, thus increasing tax income to the federal government, thus paying down the debt. He aggressively defended Social Security and said the right-wing oil men in Texas who wanted to privatize it were, in Eisenhower's word, stupid and their number is small, end quote. In 1956, he pushed for a 25% increase in the minimum wage, further stimulating the economy and helping pay down our debt. He was anti-war and in 1959 invited Khrushchev to the United States, thus beginning the process of what we today call détente, which kept our military budget from exploding and helped us pay down our debt. In 1953, he fulfilled his 1952 campaign platform of vote for peace, vote for Eisenhower, by ending the war in Korea, which stopped the hemorrhaging of money from that war and helped pay down our debt. He made it easier for veterans to get their GI Bill benefits, the discounted mortgages, free college education, thus building the middle class, stimulating the economy, which paid down our debt. He supported civil rights and aggressively supported the 1954 Supreme Court decision, Brown versus Board, that led to the integration of schools. In fact, in 1957, he sent federal troops into Arkansas to enforce it, paving the way for the creation of an African-American middle class that further stimulated the economy and paid down our debt. And on his way out of office, he warned us about the military-industrial complex, which is now bankrupting us by tripling our defense budget since 1997, with a greater percentage of it going to private for-profit corporations than any time in the history of the U.S. These were all considered pro-American back then, and they were also considered conservative positions during the Eisenhower administration. Republicans, real Republicans, please take back your party. So, as Republicans let their party get hijacked by millionaires and billionaires over the last 30 years, the middle class has been screwed, and that's most evident in a new report from the Federal Center for Housing Policy, which found 1 in 4 working households in America, more than 10.5 million families, spend more than half of their pre-tax income on rent, on putting a roof above their heads. On top of that, a new report from the National Low Income Coalition found that there is no community in America, none, in which someone can afford rent and the other essentials to live by working at a minimum wage job. In fact, in 86% of the counties surveyed, Americans couldn't afford rent and basics even when they made twice the minimum wage. With a huge chunk of their paychecks going to housing, that means more and more Americans have to make tough choices. Food or gas, clothing or heat in the winter, college or health insurance. So isn't it time we end the 30-year experiment in Reaganomics and call on the rich to pay their fair share in taxes, just as Republican Representative Rick Crawford is proposing? Here to offer his take on this is Jeff Poor, media reporter with the Daily Caller. Jeff, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you with us. How much longer do middle-class families who are losing their jobs in healthcare have to wait for wealth to trickle down since 1980?
I mean, when you say trickle down, you expect it to happen because of the tax code, or is there other things in the economy going on that are unrelated to the tax code when you talk about trickle down economics?
I expect it to happen because in '81, when Reagan became president, he said that if we changed our tax code so that millionaires and billionaires, instead of paying an 84 or 74% income tax rate, started paying 28%, and corporations, instead of paying 35% of the total federal collections, they're now paying under 15%. He said if all that happened and the rich got richer, it would trickle down to the rest of us. And it looks to me like what's happening to the rest of us is poverty.
Well, tell me, like, let's say we raise those taxes on all of those top earners
back to where they were during Eisenhower and Kennedy.
What does that do? Does it make us feel better, or does it really trickle down?
It pays off our debt and stimulates the economy.
Does that stimulate the economy?
Yes.
You know, do we have evidence that will that pay down the debt, or
yes.
B, will it go to more spending
yes.
by the government to
yes.
do X, Y, and Z?
Well, look at what happened.
That's the question. I think people are willing to pay more taxes if there's some kind of